After 6 years of waiting, the Avengers Infinity War is finally here. Was it worth the wait, or was it infinitely disappointing? Let's find out. So let's answer the first question we all had about this film. Does it manage to dedicate enough time to each superhero? Well, I would say, for the most part, yes it does. Each superhero has a sufficient amount of screen time, however, a certain handful get too much, and that results in others getting too little. More specifically, my favourite superhero. But the fact that this movie managed to juggle as much characters as it does in one movie is still a phenomenal feat of accomplishment, as I didn't think they would be able to even fit half of the heroes in one movie this well. And unlike previous Avengers films, this is much bigger in size, and it feels like a large universe of superheroes rather than a group of them. And that's ultimately one of the things that makes this Avengers movie feel different from the others. Also, the action scenes, as you would expect, are fantastic. Now, some of them were definitely better than others, but the best ones by far are when our heroes go up against Thanos. These are the parts of the movie that showcase the most creativity, as characters that I initially thought would be useless against Thanos, such as Spider-Man, actually play a pivotal part in fighting him. And I can't praise these scenes enough. And even Iron Man. I have never seen Iron Man fight as hard as he does when he's fighting Thanos. He really gives it his all. Now, going back to the superheroes, I was surprised that I liked them much better in this film than I did in their own movies. Tom Holland Spider-Man was great in Civil War, but I thought the script and direction he was given in Homecoming was absolutely terrible. But in Infinity War, he was amazing again. He was the exact same character that I loved watching in Civil War, which incidentally was directed by the exact same guys who directed this movie. Also, do you remember this scene in Homecoming? I wasn't impressed with it at all. I thought it was holding back, didn't feel real enough, and didn't hit me with an emotional punch. Well, in Infinity War, Tom Holland has another scene where he is in trouble, and his acting was so good that it actually made me and my little brother tear up. When the scene was over, I immediately thought to myself, now that's how it's done. I'm not going to give any spoilers, but when you see the movie, then you'll know which scene I'm talking about, and it was pure perfection. In regards to other characters it made me like, well, you guys know that I was never particularly fond of the Guardians of the Galaxy, so you can imagine how shocked I was when I found myself really enjoying them from their very first scene. They are incredibly toned down compared to their own movies, and they're just perfect now. Drax in particular is a character that had dignity in the first Guardians movie, but he was reduced to a joking buffoon in the sequel. But thankfully, the Russo brothers took his character and still made him an out-of-touch and easily distracted jokester, but they managed to keep the emotional core of his character intact, something Guardians 2 completely botched. Heck, I even enjoyed Mantis in this movie, and that means a lot coming from me, as I really couldn't care less for her character in Guardians 2. But here, she was great, and that's what I love about the Russo brothers' directing style. Their portrayal of these characters is far better than what all the other directors have done. They instill dignity into all of them while still maintaining their weaknesses and quirks, and their quirks are not constantly shoved into your face for comedy. Now, after all that time sitting in that chair like a lazy lump of shit, does Thanos finally do something? Yes, he does, and I'm just gonna say it. Thanos is one of the best villains in not just the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but in the entire superhero genre. He is large, imposing, fierce, devoted, and scary. Now, one of the reasons Thanos is a great villain is because of the directors of this movie, the Russo brothers. Many reviewers are going to say that Thanos is a great villain because of the script, and although that is true, it is the Russo brothers who know how to direct villains and give them the correct execution. This is evident in both their previous Marvel movies, The Winter Soldier and Civil War. The villains weren't great in those films, but they were serious and didn't compromise their villainy to tell a joke, and as a result, that made them feel real. And they applied the exact same villainous characteristics to Thanos. Seriously, if you gave Thanos to any other director like Joss Whedon for example, with this exact same script, then he would not be the same character we have right here. He would just end up being a big monster who spews out so much dumb jokes like Ultron. Thanos doesn't joke. He establishes from the very beginning that he isn't screwing around. He has a job to do and he is going to do it. And it's his devotion which is so scary. I can't say anymore without going into spoiler territory, but he is 100% devoted to his mission and he isn't going to let anyone get in his way. And that, as well as his story arc and the amazing CGI, is what makes him a truly sophisticated and spectacular villain. I sure hope Joss Whedon takes a close look at this guy and realizes that this is how you make an incredible villain. This movie is also much darker than the previous MCU films. Honestly, it's exactly what I thought Age of Ultron was going to be, judging by the trailers, which just turned out to be false advertising and was really a safe kids movie. This film, however, can become so intense whenever Thanos is fighting our heroes that you are constantly on the edge of your seat. I was actually so nervous for our characters that I had butterflies in my stomach and my heart was beating. No other Marvel Cinematic Universe movie has had me this engaged before. The stakes were high, the threats were overwhelming, and the music. I have criticised the MCU movies for having crappy soundtracks in the past, and Infinity War is the first to have great music. In the second half of the movie. In the first half, there were definitely moments of greatness, but it didn't really do anything to make the majority of scenes better. It was the second half, however, when the soundtrack became so rich and powerful. It just amplified the visuals so well and made the movie far more effective than it would have been otherwise. And even the main Avengers theme, which I got bored of very quickly in the first movie, was much more grand and strategically placed here, and I loved it. It was used at the right time, it didn't sound flat like in the first movie, and it actually packed a punch and made the action a lot better. I can keep talking about how much this movie does right, but I'll save that for the versus video where I can get into spoilers. Now, I have 3 big problems with this film. The first is what I already mentioned. Some characters got far more screen time than others. The second one I will mention in my versus video as it is a spoiler. But the third one that really stands out to me is during one of the fight scenes with Thanos. A character did something that made no sense and it just felt lazy on the movie's part. But again, I will clarify which scene it was in the versus video. But for now, it's time to conclude. Avengers Infinity War is a great movie. It is one of the best films in the MCU, and when I came out of it, I actually wanted to see it again. Whether or not it takes the spot of The Winter Soldier as my #1 favourite Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, I can't say at this point, as I have seen The Winter Soldier more times. But it definitely is in my top 3, and it gets an excellent 9 out of 10. I was so close to giving it a 10, and I desperately wanted to give it a 10. But the problems I refer to are real issues that did compromise the movie to me, and unfortunately, the score had to go down by 1. But, much like my review of Spider-Man Homecoming, my score could very well change in my versus video, so you can definitely look forward to that. And for those of you that watch this review, I want to hear from you guys. What did you think of Infinity War? And please keep the comment section a spoiler-free zone, as this is a spoiler-free review. You can write as much spoilers in the comments when I make my Infinity War versus video, or just send them to me on Twitter, and I will be able to talk as much spoilers as you want. Until then, guys. Oh, and this is very important. If you haven't already, click that bell icon next to the subscribe button, as just recently, the subscribe button means even less than it used to now. And if you want to stay updated with my content as soon as it goes up, that's your best bet. Until the next time, guys, I will catch all of you next time. Take care.